Hey, how's it going? My name is Matthew, aka EZBOT, and today we're going to talk about using the Octatrack as a performance mixer, which is something that I have studied for years and worked meticulously on crafting different performance templates for the Octatrack, which ultimately turn the Octatrack into a live performance effects box for both moving between different moments in your music, different dramas, different tension levels, to transitioning from song to song, whether it be from a different device or a different project. And today I really want to discuss an update that I've made to one of my performance templates that I use the most for techno and house production, and just some of my findings during this process, and kind of just go over how to use it in general and why it's significant to download the update. If you're already on the EZBOT Patreon, this update is free and you'll see it in the Patreon feed. But if you'd like to pick this template up and you're new to the Octatrack Performance Templates, you can visit coffee.com/EZBOT and purchase it for yourself, or visit Patreon and join the Patreon and get your hands on all the performance templates. So let me discuss a little bit about how these function. Let's drop over to the top-down camera, shall we? So this is an Octatrack Mark II, and this is the Digitac 2, this is the Digatone 2. You can use any pieces of equipment that you like, such as an M8 or a Push or a Deluge or Polyend products or other trackers, your modular synthesizers. These are all great fits for the Octatrack as a performance mixer. This particular performance mixer 3.0.6, has 3 versions that it comes with. So there's 3 different project files. I recommend you load all 3 into your Octatrack. You just mount the Octatrack as a disk, and you drag the project files onto your Octatrack in with your other projects and load it up like you would any other project. The difference is that this project isn't meant for your writing on the project itself. You just use the Octatrack as a performance mixer, which is an instrument unto itself and something for you to learn and master just like you would anything else. So the way that this performance mixer works is we have inputs A and B dedicated to the drum side of the mix. So the effects are built for drums. Inputs C and D are dedicated to the melodic side. And that's what I'm using these 2 boxes for. The Digitac 2 is my drum side of things, and the Digatone 2 is my melodic side of things. Currently, I have a techno project in here, which is this techno performance technique that I'm trying to master and craft my own way of doing techno performances, and I feel like I've come a long way, and I'll do a video on that as well. But you'll get to see a little bit of how that works during this performance template overview. So the way you use the Octatrack is to move from moment to moment, different tension levels, different drama levels. All you have to do is move the crossfader with a selected scene. And all the scenes are named. You can pick up one of these beautifully made magnetic overlays that just go right on your Octatrack from modbang.com, and they snap into place. And there's different ones for different templates that I've made, but it tells you what all the effects are, and the effects kind of describe the timbre, or the names kind of describe the timbre of the effect. The last one is always a live looper, and you'll always find a high pass on 9 and a low pass on 10, no matter what part you've entered in. Right now we're in part 3, which is called Crush, which I think is a really great group of effects. So let me give you a little demonstration on how some of these sound really quick. Here's the transitional effect. It works every single time. Let's try that again. Do another one. The effects are automated over 4 bars or 8 bars. And it's so easy to use. A lot of fun to play with. It's a piece of cake. We also have beat repeats. If you want to use the beat repeats, that's 9 and 13. 9 is beat repeats for your drum side. 13 is beat repeats for your melodic side. And you can pair this with effects. Let's check this out. If I pair it with like a low pass or a high pass filter, let's beat repeat the drums. you can do some pretty fun combos. I really love that idea of beat repeating with the drums right there. So you can kind of use that as a drum fill buildup, but there's also performance effects in here that actually do drum fill buildups for you by beat repeating a segment of audio. What you want to do is catch it on a snare or a clap, and it will crescendo over 4 or 8 bars depending on what template you've loaded in here. What's significant about 3.06 versus Performance Mixer 3.0 is I've made several adjustments. Over the last year that this template has been out, I've been going back and forth about how I want to use the compressors, because there's 2 compressors, one for each side of the bus inputs. And the last update I made in 3.04, I disabled the compressors but left them available in the Octatrack. In this template, I have changed my mind. I've actually flipped the compressors back. I've set them to full RMS, which is more of a bus mix, and I've set them to parallel compression, so 50-50 mix on the compression. And I think it sounds nice. So you can look forward to having the compressors turned back on if that was something you missed in your performance mix. Another thing I've changed in this template, what makes this kind of unique and how I'm moving forward with all of my templates, if you'd like to learn how to make these, I recommend that you watch more of these streams, because this is where I go over the deep details on the Octatrack performance templates. But some of the bigger changes that I've made to my workflow is that I now use the studio mode for queuing up my recordings. So how this functions and how this can work exactly like a DJ mixer, I can't really demonstrate it because it's something you have to actually be at a live show to really understand and see the result here. But what you would do is you plug headphones into your headphone jack, and right now the headphones are set to listen to the Q mix, and the Q mix has the output of track 3, and track 3 is the output of A and B and the output of C and D. Track 4 is a live looper track, and track 8 is a noise riser sample that I have in here. I have a 4-bar, 8-bar, and also additionally in the 3.06 template, you have a like a siren in there that you can use, or a shepherd's tone is what it is exactly. And so if you want to switch out to a shepherd's tone, you can just change and go into slot 3 and go into the project and select the shepherd's tone, and it will replace that on the current part that you're in. But so how I have it set up is that these are already queued. So say you have something, if you check out the queue mode, say you are using QMute's track in one of your other template projects or one of your other projects on your Octatrack, maybe you're doing an insert effect with QMute's track, you go and load up one of my templates and suddenly there's no audio, and that's because QMute's track is enabled, and currently these tracks were queued in Performance 3.04 and some of the other templates. So now I've made it so it's just easy. You just load up the project and it will work no matter what. Even if you have QMute's track enabled, the performance templates will function. So some stuff I want to talk about is some workflow things and the way that I've been approaching the performance templates, and what I think you could glean from my experience and what I consider to be the easiest. For me, doing these performance effects and working on the Octatrack and working with Electron, my idea is to make things as seamless and easy as possible. I don't want there to be any roadblocks between me and a comfortable live performance, or between me and just jamming on my boxes. So as soon as there's something that kind of gets in the way or frustrates me a little bit, or I feel confused by something, I try to eliminate that right away. And that's kind of the idea with the Octatrack performance templates, is that I just wanted to make it so that somebody who is brand new to the Octatrack, maybe never touched one in their life, can download one of these performance templates that I've made, throw it on their Octatrack, and it will just work. All you have to do is watch one of these tutorial videos and just notice that I'm selecting scenes and moving the crossfader, plug in your MIDI and your audio cables, and it just goes. It just functions immediately, no setup required. And it took me a long time to figure out all the settings that would equate to a seamless experience on the Octatrack, but I really feel like I'm there now, to a place where it's just too easy, and why not do it? If you own an Octatrack, if you haven't been using it, take a performance template, give your Octatrack life again. I know a lot of people buy Octatracks and don't use them, or they sell them pretty quickly because they're confusing and a little bit difficult to work on. But if you've owned one because it's just this mythical beast and it kind of sits on your shelf, grab it, get one of these templates. My Patreon's very affordable. Throw it on there and throw it in the mix with your other gear and you'll have a great time. I promise you. Okay, so back over here. So that was one of the larger changes. Another change that I made, and in this particular template, this is one of the 3 templates that Performance Mixer 3.06 ships with. They all have 64 effects. They all have a pretty similar workflow. What I've changed in all of the templates is that they now all use a 4-bar looper, and I'll talk a bit about that more in the future. But this template is called, right here, is called 3.0.6b, and this is an alternative version of the template that is built for DJ performers, people who understand DJ mixing in particular, and how this functions is a little bit tougher. So you have to have some of those DJ skills to use this template to its full capacity, but it's still very simple to use in terms of just live performance effects. But if you really want to have every feature that you had on a DJ mixer, for the most part, this is the template you want to use, 3.06b, which you'll find in the download. And why this is different is that instead of having compressors on our inputs, we have two 3-band DJ EQs, and these aren't being used for effects. These are meant for you to manually adjust sounds. And then in your live looper, we also have a 3-band EQ, DJ EQ. And so the idea here is that you can record a live loop very easily. So we just hit yes to arm a recorder on all three of the templates. It's that easy. If you want to record a 4-bar loop, just hit the yes button, and then on the next 4-bar turnaround, it'll record a loop. Because we're not in a current, the sequencer isn't running, it'll just start recording a loop right now, which is great for creating stems. If you want to capture stems of your gear, I'll talk a bit about that too. Hair. Okay. Let's record a loop. All right, we can see that a loop is being recorded right now. And I can transition over to that loop by going into scene 16. It's always the master looper on all three of the templates for Performance Mixer 3.06. We're now in a live loop. And I can kind of demonstrate that by using this DJ mixer here. What's cool, and if you're good at DJing and understand how to use DJ mixers, which I'm not amazing at, I'm much better at building performance effects than I am at DJing. I've never really DJ'd. I'm all about live hardware electronic music, but if you're familiar with DJing and you come over here, you know what to do with these 3-band EQs. So if I have a 3-band EQ on a mix, and now I'm gonna switch over to a different sound profile for all these boxes. What we can do is go into this DJ EQ, which is the live DJ EQ for our incoming audio. I could have my headphones plugged in here, and I could hear these machines while the audience is listening to this recording. And this is what's really cool. So we could like remove all the low end here on the other audio. And then on this mix, we could maybe like remove the mids, boost the highs a bit. And then we can fade over to these sources with their different EQ bands removed. So check it out. Low end's gone for this mix. This is using the live looper. So easy, as you can just see, all we gotta do is go function Q, and it'll reload the parts and snap right back to where we want. It just works. That easy. We brought the lows back in, the performance template reset to the values it's supposed to be. Great, right? This is Performance Mixer 3.0b. This is the DJ transition trick. So that was the full-on DJ transition. I'm sure there's amazing ways of doing it that's better than what I just showed you, but it has all the tools and all the features for you to do that on your own. So if you're better at DJ transitions than I am, you have the tools to do it with this performance template. This is 3.06b, so please check it out. So some of the other things about the performance templates to 3.06 across all of the templates, as I was mentioning, is that they all now use 4-bar loopers. Let's talk about that for a second. Why do you want to use a looper? Let me explain how a looper functions in hardware electronic music. So if you're performing live and you don't want to have any downtime, these machines, they don't sweat. They're not working very hard, right? They're just running on electricity. They don't need to take breaks. So what you can do, and to have these seamless, energetic performances so that there's no downtime like there is with like a band, you can record a live loop of your music. Say drop down to the drums only, and maybe you record a loop of the drums, transition with the DJ looper, and then load up a new project, or go to another song, or change the music in some sort of dramatic way, and then crossfade back over, and then you have no downtime in between your projects. The reason why I switched Performance Mixer 3.06 to only using 4-bar loops is because of the Octatrack's beat detection issues. So for those of you who are playing in tempos above 170 or below 86, and you wanted to record an 8-bar loop, which is already a very complex and complicated process, even as simplified as I've made it in these templates, it still was kind of cumbersome, as opposed to just hitting the yes button on your Octatrack and it just easily recording a loop for you, perfect every single time, no matter what tempo, is that it would double the speed of the sample playback if it was below that tempo or above the tempo I just mentioned. And that was really frustrating, and it required you to go into your audio editor and adjust the bars of the recording so the Octatrack had the correct tempo. I just think it's better for us to just not worry about it. Let's just record 4-bar loops and use those for our quick transitions as opposed to recording 8-bar loops. I've already found this to be a much easier workflow. Another thing that I like to do on the Octatrack, as opposed to having the Octatrack be my master clock, this is something I've talked about in so many videos where I said, make sure the Octatrack is your master clock because of clicks and pops and all sorts of other transient issues from the Octatrack being clocked and some of the effects, is that I've actually switched over the Octatrack to not being the master. So you can see when the template gets shipped to you, everything is engaged from receive, transport, and clock. Everything is set up. So all you gotta do is plug in your MIDI cable and it will just go, whether it's from the Octatrack or to the Octatrack. I just clock the Octatrack now. I just find it to be that much easier. When I'm recording something that I want to present as a professional finished recording, I multi-track, which means that this can't really be in the mix. It doesn't have multi-track input. If I want to, I can multi-track and then have the audio come out from Bitwig or Ableton back into my Octatrack, use the effects and record that if I want to have these effects be a part of my recording. But for the most part, I'll just do that stuff in the DAW. It's a different experience entirely in the computer than it is on the Octatrack. So I just wanted to point that out. It's so easy to just plug MIDI into this, whether it's with your M8 tracker and you're using maybe the Hyper Effects template for drum and bass, or using Performance Mixer 3.06 for techno, house, and any other tempo stuff that's maybe below 170. Even though I think it's great for drum and bass as well, or garage, or anything you're doing that's got like higher energy. But yes, so that's one of the changes that we've made. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by chat, but I want to keep going with this. So some of the effects in 3.06b specifically have now used the DJ filter as part of the effects process. So those effects are only going to be seen in Performance Mixer 3.06b and not in the other one, Performance Mixer 3.06 4-bar or the 8-bar templates. There are very mild differences. You're not really going to notice much. I notice it because this is what I'm playing on all day, every day, all the time. But yeah, you may hear some stuff that you like. Maybe you'll like it a little bit better. So some more changes, and I want to talk about this. And this is just workflow stuff for you to understand your Octatrack. How does it function? Why do I do it this way instead of this way or that way? One of the things I changed is over in our noise riser, I had to adjust all of the effects to reflect this. The noise riser, I've set the volume at 50%, so set at 64, and this is, your overall track level. And the reason why I set the noise riser at 50% is because when I had it set all the way up, which was a silly thing to do in the first place, the noise riser was affixed to the effects. This way, if your music is quieter and you feel like the noise risers are too loud, all you have to do is adjust your track level and that will fix the noise riser volume. So now you can kind of make adjustments to your effects on the fly and prepare it for your mix that you like to do with your boxes as opposed to the mix that I've set up for you, which I think is just much more customizable and it makes a lot more sense. So now I'm going to pull up some notes and kind of talk about some more stuff that I've done because I did a lot of stuff in this particular template. That's not the note. Okay. I also adjusted multiple effects volumes, resonance, and distortion levels across all of the effects just because I felt like some of the dynamics seemed a little bit loud. And we can kind of just hear some of that if I move to another build, go to another section here. So we have all sorts of buildups like this, but now I feel like they're calmed down a little bit. Some of them got a little bit louder than I wanted. You want to time them. We're in the 4-bar template right now. If you're in the 8-bar, you of course want to time it to 8 bars. Check this out. just does these perfect transitions. I feel like I've really nailed it this time. So yeah, a lot of the changes are just tasteful volume changes so that things stay at a more appropriate level. I also adjust several LFO settings. So some of the stuff that I had to do to make this template function a way that I wanted, for instance, was to build some custom LFO shapes. Let's see if I can find one of them. Does this one use it? Sit on the volume. Maybe this part doesn't use any of the custom LFO shapes. Let me see. Oh, here's one of them. That seems like a goofy shape. Maybe it's in the other Performance Mixer 3.064 for an 8-bar template. Let's switch over to that template. Let's go over to the 8-bar version. So we want to use 3.06 8-bar Performance Mixer. Now we're going to be in the 8-bar effects, which is going to crescendo over 8 bars. And the reason I'm switching over is not just to demonstrate the 8-bar effects crescendos, which I think are really tasteful for techno. So all you have to do is hit that crossfader all the way down at the beginning of your 8-bar turnarounds. I write my music in 8 bars. This particular project is an 8-bar project. It's just techno improv project, so it can be whatever it needs to be at the time. But if you're writing in 8 bars, like I like to typically, you just hit the crossfader over to B. You always leave side A muted. Make sure you leave the freeze delays up here so you can play with freeze delays if you want, even though it's not usually a very techno thing to do. And then it will crescendo over 8 bars instead. But I did want to show you some of the LFO shapes and talk about that. So let me see if I can find one that used it. Here we go. So for instance, this uses the LFO designer. And the reason I made this LFO design like this is that I wanted to create unipolar values. So this one does a negative volume adjustment. And I actually have another LFO that ramps up the speed at which this LFO is adjusting the volume. So this is doing these gating effects. They sound really nice, but before I was using a square wave and I wasn't really paying attention to the fact I had to do all these volume adjustments because the square wave wasn't doing what I wanted. Turns out that I just needed to make unipolar LFOs because the square wave was going positive, negative, so it was making louder volumes and quieter volumes. And that wasn't at all what I wanted. I want static volume level with negative volume levels to just gate. So we were doing some weird stuff before in the other template. That's all been adjusted now. I'm now using these unipolar negative gating values. So this is one of the updates to Performance Mixer 3.06. Let me show you an 8-bar crescendo. This is also now using the parallel compressors. So it's not gotten any louder, hopefully, but it should be a little tighter of a mix because I'm not compressing on these boxes right now. Let me go to 8-bar effects. Check this out. Yes, I'm really digging this project I'm working on the Dig Attack and Dig Zone 2. It's the ultimate techno combo, but paired with the Octatrack Performance Mixer, like, I can improvise as much as I want with these effects now. Drop down to that minimal techno. Go over to party. Too easy. Now if I want to record a 4-bar loop, just hit the yes button. It's already started a recording. Crossfade. Oops. I can't help but get into it. You know, since we're talking, sponsor me, LaCroix. Just do it. Sweet nectar. Cool. So this is Performance Mixer 3.0.6, both the 4-bar, the 8-bar, and the DJ Effects B version, which I highly recommend, and is the one that I'll be playing with at the next show that I'm playing, which I'll be playing at the Synth Expo in Portland on April 13th. So if you want to come down and see me perform on the M8 tracker with the Digitact, Digatone 2, and the Octatrack, then come on down to the Synth Expo in Portland, Oregon, and hang out for a Modbang event. Let me get back over to my notes so I can tell you some more stuff. There was some random MIDI notes that I found, some buggy MIDI notes that I found on the MIDI side of things. I've removed that stuff, so there's nothing to worry about there. And I set the default tempo for all of the templates to 120, which is what you would expect. I was like putting people at 130 because they were making techno. I was making these decisions for people. I've decided I'm gonna stop doing that. Let everybody do whatever they want. I'm just gonna make things be as easy and seamless as possible. And that's what these performance templates do. So as I said before, all of these are now using the Q bus. They're all using the A, B, C, D dual bus split input. It's so easy to use. You just select a scene with B, read the magnet, pick up one of the magnets if you want, or don't, and just read the document that comes with the project, and you can see what the effects are and how they function. And then you either time the effect at the beginning of 8 bars, depending on what template. You can time it at the beginning of 4 bars at the next segment if you're in the 8-bar template, and use the last half of the modulation, which I think sounds really great. I would either start at the beginning or start in the last half. Those two work the best for doing these nice transitions. But they both work great. Or you can just use the 4-bar template and it'll always be in the 4-bar transition. And it's just really simple and easy. This is, of course, your beat repeats. 9 is your beat repeat for your drum side. 13 is the beat repeat for your melodic side. You want to beat repeat them both at the same time. You just hit them both at the same time. You can beat repeat and use the performance effects at the same time, as long as the effect doesn't use beat repeats in the effect. That's denoted in the documentation. It'll let you know with a little asterisk on the effect in the documents if it uses a beat repeat. That way, if you're trying to do this technique using the fader at the same time, you can not screw it up, because it'll make these scratchy sounds when the delay freezes, and then you use a like a linear modulation like this with the delay time in the current delay setup. So you don't want to do that. But yeah, I'm just gonna now kind of just play some techno and just use effects so that you can get an idea of how this template sounds. And maybe I'll talk about what some of the effects are and how they're built as I'm doing this. Does that sound cool? Let me switch over to the chat version now that I've kind of demonstrated the template. And I'll ask that question, or see if I can get an answer to that question. Punch-in effects are cool on hip-hop. Yeah, I have the punch-in effects for the hyper effects template. I highly recommend that template if you're doing hip-hop or you're doing anything that's got not four. It's like it sounds best on these not 4 on the floor beats, I feel like. So like hip-hop often doesn't have that straight beat like that, and so the hyper effects template sounds really great mixing up those drums. Any tips for the OT into push 3? Into push 3? Just plug it in, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that one. I would just plug it into the push 3. I'm not sure what you mean, but yeah. it's a great machine to pair with the push 3. I'd say the Octatrack in the push. There's a lot of overlap in terms of what they can do because push can do absolutely everything, but not very easy to do on the push. I'll tell you that much. It's really frustrating. DJ Labor, first time I've seen you live. Regards from Bavaria. Hey, what's up? Thanks. Give us your effects secrets. What's up, Femto? Clever or whatever. Forever. Dope. Nice to see everybody. It's Tuesday. We do these live streams every Tuesday. Today's a special one because we're talking about Performance Mixer 3.06, and which is my pride and joy on the Octatrack. That and the Hyper Effects template. Absolutely adore these. Currently in the process of building three new templates, I'm sorry, for the Octatrack, which I'm excited about. All 3 of them, huge projects, all 3 of them, but they're going to make your Octatrack even more valuable. I can't even believe there's still more nuggets for me to find in the Octatrack, but I am certainly finding them. But those 3 templates are the new Ultimate Effects template, which is going to have some from 3.06 Performance Mixer, some from Hyper Effects. It's going to be this conglomerate of automated effects with hyper effects, so these glitchy beat repeat sample effects, the time stretch live effects. They're really gritty, crunchy sounds with more techno inspired effects. Then also the hybrid 4x4 template, which is a summed mix of A, B, C, and D running through 64 effects, as well as a DJ mixer effect on there. So the DJ filter, 3-band EQ, and then 4 tracks of flex tracks for you to record or put static tracks on. And you just run the Q output right back into your Octatrack, and that's how you would use that. So that's coming out. And then the new Octatrack solo template 1.5 is something I'm working on. It has 6 tracks and 64 effects. That's how I'm going to do this. 6 tracks for you to play on your Octatrack, stems, whatever you want it to be, but also 64 performance effects where all the effects that you put in your Octatrack, all of the sounds you put into your Octatrack that you made on your Octatrack, whatever you can make on 6 tracks, which is a lot with an Octatrack, will run through all 64 effects simply by plugging your Q outs back into your Octatrack's input. And that's going to be a huge project for me, but look forward to it because it's absolutely coming. It'll be available on patreon.com/EZBOT and also coffee.com/EZBOT. But yeah, all 3 of those are coming soon. Hybrid 4x4 is the next one because that's the one I'm the furthest on already. But currently, if you want to turn your Octatrack into your performance mixer, you want to check out 3.06, 4, 8, and the B templates. So let me tell you a little bit about how these effects are built. Okay, so a lot of the beat repeat effects are built off of freeze delays. On track 1, we always have on both inputs A, B, and C and D on track 1, we have, in this current template, we have the parallel compressor going on. So ignore that. We have beat repeats is what we've got going on. These are freeze delays. So if you set your delay to not ping pong, not tape, so turn off tape, make sure ping pong is not enabled, but set lock on, this will turn it into a freeze delay, which allows you to use the freeze delay keyboard input, but also lets you lock in the delay at a 0 value with scenes, which is how this is done. So I have scenes that will lock the send at 0, and that will create a freeze. So if I want to freeze a half note, that's 128. That's the time on the Octatrack that I want to freeze it to. What I'll do is I'll beat repeat, I'll freeze the audio, then I'll have a second filter, which is the next track here. I'll have a filter that will filter the frozen repeating audio. I'll set an LFO to ramp over 8 bars, which is what it's set to, and it will ramp up, or in this case, it'll ramp down, so it'll go from high pass to not high pass, ramp down, set to trig so that it triggers at the beginning of the track, because the actual sequencer is a big part of how the effects work. The effects aren't just LFOs, they're sequenced to the sequencer, and the sequencer is sending these events to LFO phase resets and to beat repeats and to sidechain ducking. So we have a sidechain ducking emulation. In fact, I should show you that. Hold on, let's check that out really quick. Track 5, if you want to do sidechain compression or sidechain ducking, you just go to track 5 and you're going to turn up, I believe, LFO 1. There it is right there. So LFO 1, we just turn up the depth and it will duck A, B, or it will duck C and D inputs exclusively because C and D inputs are supposed to be your melodic input on these templates. Check it out. Here we go. Here we go. Get a nice ducking effect. You can dial it into taste. You also like go transition. Now we can get out of it. Super cool. Incredibly fun, incredibly easy. You can never stop getting debris on these machines, I swear to God. There's no winning. I blame my dog, who's sleeping behind me, or pretending to sleep. Anxiously, I'm sure, because they're not getting my attention at the moment. So I'm going to switch out of this template. This is the 8-bar version. It crescendos after 8 bars. We'll go over back to Performance Mixer 3.06B, which is the one that I'll be playing my next show with because I really love the DJ transition and I'm trying to get good at doing the DJ EQ. Remove this band and emphasize this band on the other mix and then transition in between the two. And I love that idea, and I find it a difficult art, and anything that's tough, I really like. Speaking of things, so if that's why I like Dark Souls. The Octatrack is the Dark Souls of electronic music. And I truly believe that. This thing is straight up Elden Ring with no summon signs, right? This thing is just tough. It's tough, requires hard work, and you got to get good at it. But that's how live hardware electronic music is in general. But the Octatrack in particular really does demon souls your life, if you know what I mean. Okay, so we're back in the performance template that I'll be using at the shows. And now I want to talk a little bit about this workflow. So also you can use the use just inputs A and B. The drum side I feel like is very effective. So the way it's split with these effects is some of the effects emphasize melody more in certain ways. Like maybe it won't low pass the melody as much, but it will low pass the drums because drums sound nice low passed. Maybe it'll high pass the melody more, so we still have the melodic lines, but we'll low pass the drums. That's how some of the effects are built and why there's 2 effects buses, just to keep things clean. So we don't have this really muddy live performance mix. That being said, the drum bus alone sounds really great on both mixes. So if you wanted to just stick on this template, not switch over to other templates, you could use something like the M8 tracker. And I believe if am I getting sending clock or receiving clock? Let's see. Maybe we could just time it. Make it so we can actually hear it. Okay, what are we at? I actually want to send clock, I think. So let's send clock. I don't think I have it set up to do this right now. Hang on, give me 1 second. I really want this to be in the demonstration that you can use a single bus and still have a great time with these effects. So here we go. We're going to switch out the Dig Attacks MIDI in, which I'll just put on the side here for the M8s. And we'll set the M8 to send clock. And I'll say clock. Oh yeah, sync out. Clock and transport. Check this out. Oh, wait a second. This might need to go in the other one. Let me see. Is that what's happening here? There we go. I need to turn it down a little bit. Hang on. Beat repeats on this end in party. Cool. So that's using the performance template with a single bus input, namely the M8 tracker. And like I said, if you want to see me do some of this stuff with the performance mixer, M8 tracker, Digitek, Digatone, head on down to the Portland Synth Expo on April 13th. There's an after party hosted by Modbang, which is my company, and I'll be playing along with some other excellent performers. I'll be sharing posters and more info about that in the coming week. But that was a quick demonstration just to show you that you can use the single bus and have a great time with the Performance Mixer 3.06 and 3.06B, because it's an absolute banger of an Octatrack performance template. But I'm super excited to keep working on these and to optimize them further, because I feel like there's still room for perfection, and that's really what I'm striving for. Do want to mention that while I have anyone's attention, that I do have these magnetic overlays for the Octatrack that really help with these performance templates. One of them, my favorite of them all, is this. This right here is the user-defined magnet. This doesn't work for any performance template in particular. It's just notes. It's a dry erase marker performance magnet. So you just throw it on your Octatrack, and it's magnetic, so it just snaps right in, and then you can write down what scenes you want with a dry erase marker. It's super dope. I love it. I use it all the time when I'm designing my performance templates. This is what I use to design the effects. So I'll write down 9 through 12 are going to be filters, and 13 through 16. Oh, here's an example of me doing exactly that. This is the kind of stuff that I do at live shows. This is the stuff that I pair with it. Everything that I do with the Octatrack, with these templates, is all about me optimizing my live hardware electronic music show so that I can put on the best show that I possibly can, so that I can have the most fun while playing live, because I don't want to do electronic music if I'm not doing something. I need to do something. I need to be able to turn knobs and tweak sounds and like play with filter cutoffs and play with drama. That's something that I had a hard time doing in rock music. There's not as much drama as I'm able to create in electronic music. Electronic music is all about drama, especially techno. And these performance effects that you can design on the Octatrack, and if you want to do it yourself and you don't want to use my templates, do it. I have all sorts of tutorials on how to build these effects. They're very in-depth on this channel. Some of them go for hours telling you exactly how to do this stuff. But you could just get it already cooked for you the way that I have it made and not have to go through that process. But everything that I'm doing here is to try and make my show better, and I'm just kind of sharing that stuff with you guys. That being said, there are other magnetic overlays. This one is really cool. They're designed by Blake's. He runs Modbang in Portland events. He helps me do the artwork for my magnetic overlays and stuff like that. This is the new one for 3.06. Honestly, it's the same one. If you already have one of these magnetic overlays, you don't need to change it. The Techno Performance Mixer. And this is the Hyper Effects template overlay magnet, which I think is really fun and makes it really easy when you're playing like drum and bass, or someone said like lo-fi hip-hop, or just hip-hop in general, to use these effects: master looper, filters, stretch effects, stutter effects, and beat repeats. And then there's 64 of these effects, but they're laid out in this fashion. But this template magnetic overlay here tells you exactly what each effect is on a per part basis. So when you want to move through and try out different effects, you just hit the parts button and select a bank of effects, and all the effects will change. Check this out. I'm a crazy man. 3, 4. Oh, right. That sounded wonky because we're not getting clocked from the Digitek. So we gotta switch that back. I was like, wait a second, that effect wasn't in time. Here we go. So also you can play with effects like this because the crescendo is happening whether you like it or not. It's happening underneath. I also built like these user-defined magnets that I'm using for me like writing down what's going on, like what machines and input left and right, where the MIDI is going out to. Just like helpful for when I'm playing shows. Not super pretty to look at because it's white, but it's fine. And then also this is my performance notes magnet. I put this on my Octatrack. It tells me, I write down my set number. So I go to bank A, pattern 1 through 3, bank B, patterns 2 through 7, or whatever. I write that all here. I put it on the front of my Octatrack because it's magnetic, so you can't see it. But I can see it as the performer. I can see exactly where I need to go while I'm playing live without having a notebook or something on the table, which I absolutely adore as well, because I don't want to have more junk on the table. I love having a really clean looking setup, and I like everything feeling extremely optimized. Cool. Too fun. I've been having too much fun. I'm really glad that I dove back into techno. I'm discovering that I really only like making two particular kinds of music on my hardware in general lately, because really all I ever play with is my live hardware stuff. And I'm really finding this stuff that I want to make is I really like making techno. I love making techno, turns out. I love it. I like listening to it a bit, but I really love playing it. I love making it. Listening to it, less so much. Unless I'm at a show, then I really like it. But I usually listen to like rock music typically because that's just what I grew up listening to. God, do I love making it and performing it. It's super fun. Just a really great time. But I also love making drum and bass. And I think that I really like minimal techno and drum and bass, and then just some electronica, which is just your encompassing genre. That's just like everything on the outskirts. We'll call it electronica. But those particular sound sources, I just love. And I crafted these Octatrack Performance Mixer templates to those genres, particularly drum and bass, particularly techno, which also all subgenres of techno work just fine. Minimal happens to be my absolute favorite, but I do like a warehouse sound too with some thundering rumble bass, which is something that you can learn how to make right here on the EZBOT channel, because I have lots of tutorials on how to make rumble bass. And we've done it lots during live streams. All right, now I'm going to flip it over and just kind of answer questions. So if anybody has some questions about the performance templates, Pineapple Galaxy, does it come with these awesome jams? I'm afraid not. But I am absolutely going to teach people how to make these awesome jams, because I made this whole thing last night in about an hour and a half once I created the workflow. The workflow is easy. It really is. It's a piece of cake. Once I've just decided that I was going to commit to this concept, as you might have already kind of gleaned how I'm doing it, what I'm doing as I'm performing, when I hold a function and I kind of like just change this whole thing out and I let go and it flips to a completely different sound source. That's new with these newer firmwares on the Digitact and Digatone 2 and Syntact. And I can switch between two sound sets. But as you may notice, we'll talk more about this in another video, because I don't want to go deep on this, because I really want to talk about this deeply in its own particular video. But I don't ever have these tracks play at the same time, because those elements are meant to replace each other. Same goes on my Digatone. Track 1 and 9 never play at the same time. 2 and 10 don't play at the same time. All the tracks play, and it's just, I keep just switching things up, and that's how I'm able to improvise. And if you're in perform kit mode on both, you can really go ham on the kits themselves and then just snap back to wherever you want to go with Function Perform Kit. It's absolutely insane how easy performing has become with this combo of the new updates with the Digitac, Digatone 2, and the Octatrack, using it specifically for performance effects and not for anything else. I'm just seamlessly having a good time. I feel like I could play the same pattern forever because of these concepts that I'm working into my live shows. Hyper Effects is great for Tribecore. I'm afraid I don't know what Tribecore is. But that's cool. Total Camera, you got the whole bundle? Sweet. That's great. I could also write my shopping list on that and slap it on your fridge. Oh, Jake. Winner. I would give you one if you were nearby, just so you did that. B is for EZBOT. Thanks, Hardware Live Jams. You're welcome for sharing the templates. I love sharing this stuff. I love the hardware electronic music community. I've worked so hard at nurturing it, along with several other people who have helped me along the way. Blake's, Toby, Levi, Michael. So many people here local in Seattle too that have just been integral to helping get like Modbang, live hardware, electronic music shows off the ground, which is my website. You can visit modbang.com/events to see the next upcoming Modbang event. We have it in 3 different states. They're all hardware exclusively, giving us a reason to use our Octatracks, our Digitacs, our Digatones, our modular synths, our Polyon stuff, our M8 trackers, our OPXYs, and Eurorack. These live hardware shows, even the playing ground, so that we're all playing on hardware, we're all showing off our skill set. And that's what I'm interested in. Like I was making that analogy with that the Octatrack is the Dark Souls of hardware electronic music. It's just the Dark Souls of electronic music in general. And the reason is because I love that get good attitude. I love that attitude. I don't think it should be that easy. I think performance effects should be easy, but it's about the music and about how good you get at the performance itself. Like overusing effects is a problem too. You don't want to use them all the time. Just like overusing a skill in one of those games will get you killed. It's the same thing with live hardware electronic music. You have to choose the right time. You have to choose the right effects at the right time to create the right energy and kind of understand what that effect is going to do. So it requires a lot of practice. But I love that. I love that idea of we all get to kind of be on this even playing field and go in there with our gear and be like, hey, I got this device and now I'm going to play a show for you with it. And this is how good I've gotten at programming. And I want to show that off. And that's what everybody does at these shows. They all kind of get together. It's very community driven, but the music is outstanding. There's outstanding artists that play them. Absolute super talents, just like, and it sounds so raw and organic because it has not been post-processed through the moon like some music you don't want to listen to. There's so many bands that I've heard that have had so much audio processing. The mastering work is, stellar, but it sounds so sterile and dead and just popped out to the max because there's nothing raw about it anymore. That's what live hardware electronic music does, is it keeps the music raw and real and tangible feeling, and it actually feels like you're at a live show with a band, a live PA experience. That's what this stuff does for you. And I feel like the Octatrack performance templates really, or just using the Octatrack in general, just even without me trying to get you to jump on board with my templates, just using stuff like the Octatrack and live effects boxes, whether it's a Chaos Replay, a 404 Mark II, using your Push 3 as a performance effects box, using an RMX 1000 or a DJ mixer that's got some decent effects in it, using all that, that's like, it's raw. It feels very real, as opposed to some stuff that, is like baked into your song. That doesn't feel real. You can kind of just hit play and it goes. But here we can improvise. We can make it up as we go. The song's different every single time. We got the noise sweeps in there. We've got the build-ups. We've got the drops. We've got the sidechain pumping. We have the compression. We have all the filters we need. We have the live looper for transitioning with DJ effects. We have absolutely everything we need to get the job done, but we don't have to have anything to start with. You could start with just a sequencer, a kick drum, or a 909 and a 303 and just go ham. Get a delay or reverb pedal to pair with it, but like, you can have a great time with just that and a bunch of performance effects, because it'll just give you those downtimes, those moments that you need to prepare a little something, and to build that kind of suspense and drama. Yeah. I had promised that I was going to drink a Red Bull before my live streams, and I have kept that promise. So I'm getting myself super geeked before I do my live streams so that I can talk as fast as I possibly can at you, and I think it's being pretty effective. For live sets, do you normally do one pattern per track, or how's that organized in your set? Great question. Charlie Johnson wants to know how I do my live sets. So this is a brand new set that I'm constructing right now, and we're only looking at one pattern because that's all I had prepared. Because I wrote that music last night. I kind of let go. I've kind of just didn't delete, but I've put my other set aside. But typically, I have much more than one pattern for a song. So in my, like if it's an M8 tracker, it's one project, right? It's not patterns. Like I am kind of letting it play on rails, and then I'm using performance effects to kind of zhuzh up the track, and maybe using a you know, some sort of MIDI controller, which is what I'll be using with the M8 tracker, is the roto control from Melbourne Instruments. And that's just because it has such a great instant MIDI learn application. Just so quick for me to program and see the values right here because it has screens for every knob. But this is what I'll be using for that to zhuzh up the like filter cutoff or a wavetable or something. But typically a song would be, you know, anywhere from 2 to 4 patterns long. And some of them will be all the way up to 6 patterns long, depending on how the song is constructed and what kind of music it is. And yeah, I think for like a really good techno track, like if you're doing the workflow that I'm doing, which is this, like I call it 2-finger techno, the 2-finger techno technique, which I'll be doing a video on soon. It literally calling it the 2-finger techno technique. Nobody don't steal my name for it, please. But if you're going to do that technique where you're kind of switching elements out and you have doubles of each element so you can go back and forth and kind of mix and match them as you want, then you only need 1 or 2 patterns. So to have this song, this techno track, feel complete and feel like I could play for a good 8 minutes or so on this single track, or 6 minutes even, I probably want at least 2 patterns. But typically I would go all the way up to 4 patterns for even just a techno performance. For a per track, where everything is at the same tempo and in the same key. Yeah, and that's a lot, in my opinion. So if I'm doing 16 sequences on each box for a single song, 16 sequences per pattern, then I must have a ton that I can do while I'm playing, and maybe won't even use up all the sound sources and all the different combos that I could do. And using the power of pre-listening, which is only available in this format, using like the Octatrack Performance Mixer and using the headphone out, or unless you have a big DJ mixer. But in terms of other hardware boxes, that's not an expensive DJ mixer. I can pre-listen to these devices with a pair of headphones like this, like you see DJs doing, fade over to a master loop, change the sounds out, and switch back over. And I can make one pattern go for a really long time because I'm pre-listening to these machines, so to speak, while I'm in a live loop that the audience is listening to, which allows me to get the most out of these boxes. So I can play with Control All if I want. I can add reverbs and delays to different effects. I can open the decay of hats. I can adjust the filter cutoff, or even adjust sounds entirely, switching sounds entirely or patterns using the pre-listen feature. And really, like, you can make a single pattern go forever. I could play this techno track with effects and switching between different sound sources on one pattern for a good 3 or 4 minutes before I think it got super old. There are some elements that you'd have to avoid, of course, like anything very melodic that repeats is going to be a bit much. And my rule of thumb is atonal sounds can play for a very long time. Melodic sounds can play for very short times. You get about 16 bars max with a melody, I think, before it starts getting a little old, unless you start adding an element on top of it that kind of plays into the melody. But atonal sounds, you can play for a good 32 up to 64 bars even before anyone even notices that they've been listening to a sound on repeat, because their brains just can't connect the fact that that's been happening, because there's nothing to latch onto musically speaking. So keep that in mind. Maybe that'll help you. Can't keep watching the videos so much as you spend time with my gear, Lorem. I understand that. 4 different states. That's right. 4 states right now. I think we got one going in Ohio. Loving the DT. Oh, what's up, Vibes? I figured it might be you. Did you make some changes with the compressor settings if I remember correctly? Yes, I did. So in Performance Mixer 3.06, I did a parallel compression, so it's a half mix compression. It's set to bus compression, which is an RMS like ratio based compression, which is an option in your compressor. You can turn that off and have it be more of a precise transient compression. I don't honestly know how to explain that. The RMS compression is something I haven't dug into. I just know how it sounds. It's a wider compression, so it does better at whole mix compression. The RMS does when you have it turned up. But yeah, I did a parallel compression, so 50-50 on it, and I think it sounds pretty nice. It shouldn't raise the volume very much of your mix. It will. It's not perfect. It will adjust. It will increase the volume of your overall mix using the performance template 3.06. 3.06 4-bar or 8-bar will give you a mild volume boost. Nothing that I've noticed. It's maybe a dB, maybe 2 dB that I've seen, so shouldn't be something that really messes with you, but it does glue the mix in very gently. Very, very gently. I was trying to make it so that I'm not making people's music different than if they were writing it without the Octatrack. That's what I don't want to do. I don't want to influence your music so much so that you think something's louder than it is. And then when you're not using the Octatrack, it doesn't sound right. So I think this bus compression is just mild enough. And since it's dual bus as well, so it's just latching onto the drum side and just latching onto the I was going to say medical side, the melodic side, that the compression is very gentle since we have two compressors doing that. So that's the compressor setup in the current template. The push in roto control is just a tease. You won't say anything. The push in the roto control is, I will say something. I am working on performance templates for push 3. It's a very slow process because push 3 doesn't let me have access to all of the hardware features that the device has access to. So for me to do the performance effects, Ableton needs to update the push 3 to give more control to Max for Live before I'm able to build the template I want to build on the push 3. Otherwise, I would have been done forever ago. I do think that this MIDI controller, while I completely endorse the Chic MIDI controller, and you can find performance templates for this that pair with Performance Mixer 3.0, 3.06 on both the Patreon and on Ko-fi.com for free. You can just download it for free off Ko-fi.com, and it pairs with the templates. Turns this right into extra controls, high pass filters, high pass with delays, other things that you want to control just using reverb, delay, and chorus on a whole mix, just adding reverb and delay and chorus to A, B, or C and D. That happens with the MIDI controller, or you do it by hand on your Octatrack. But the roto control is really great because the roto control does have knobs that respond to external stimuli, so to speak, external CCs. So if I make an adjustment on the push 3, it'll reflect that on the roto control instantaneously using drone motors inside the device. Really cool technology, extremely useful. I love it. I also have a Melbourne Delia. It's my favorite polysynth that I own right now, besides with the Prophet 5. But honestly, I don't ever use Prophet 5 Delia all the way. It's got a ladder filter, great sounding effects, and the knobs move on their own. It's just easy to do sound design when the knobs always match exactly what you're looking at. But yeah, roto control with push 3, great combo. Red Bull sponsor him for God's sake. Yeah, you can tell that I've Red Bulled it up. Could you make half magnets? I keep cutting your templates in half so I can swap my customs into 9 through 16. That's an interesting idea. Actually, I'll consider that. The Octagod. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that would be really cool if we could get me. I'd do it. A Red Bull sponsorship, although I don't want to drink a Red Bull every day. Once a week is enough Red Bull for me. I bought a pack of 4 Red Bulls. That's an entire month of Red Bull. There's no way I'm drinking a Red Bull on days that I'm not doing live streams. I ain't geeking like that. I want to sleep. I already don't sleep. Not nearly enough sleep happened on this side. 2x by 16. That's a decent idea. Hardware jams. I also like your name because I'm very into hardware live jams. What's up, James Limited Maker Party people? How's it going? Good to see you. I'm just searching through the chat to see if there's any questions about these templates that I can help answer. Yeah, B is for banger, Moonbase. Jeffy, thank you. I agree. It absolutely is. And it is a banger template. Yeah, I think that two-fingered death punch. Nice. You got all the good ones today. Hardware live jams. All right, I'm gonna play a little bit more Techno on the performance template 3.06b, and I'll just kind of maybe talk about a little bit about what's going on, and then we will conclude, because I think mostly my job here is done. I really wanted to update people on what's the big difference between 3.0, the original version, and 3.06, which should have been 3.1, I imagine, because of how much I introduced here, how many changes I made. But Yuri Bulachov, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Toneverk is fake news. Toneverk is not a thing. That was a prototype. Electron actually addressed that. Here we go. So actually what I would want to do is bring these elements in. We're in performance kit mode. This track I don't want to have just suddenly come in. That melody needs to be like something like the kick comes out. What's track level? 88 we want it to be at. We have that at 0, and we kind of like build up to it. We're like, maybe take these hats out. We kind of do this build up, right? And now we'll do like an effect to follow up. Oh, I really like Crush. This is how you perform with the performance template. I really do need to write some more of these melodic lines, because I only have these 2 at the moment that we were switching back and forth between, but 2 bass lines, 2 melodic lines so far. But I do want to add some more. Always remember to reload your parts. If you ever have anything wonky happen, like I hit a couple of knobs and it was making these LFOs do stuff, just reload your part. into our minimal here. Don't really want to do this in techno. Wish my dog could dance with me here. Yeah, definitely overused that melodic line at this point. So I have a lot more writing to do. Fortunately, I have almost 2 weeks to get it done. So I think there's plenty of time for me to get everything in order. But now I have Performance Mixer 3.06 B and 4 and 8-bar versions, things should be a lot easier to perform with. Things should be a lot easier. That's really what I meant to say. Things should just be easier. Things should be more fun. So yeah, I'm having a great time. I want you to have a great time too. So go on down to patreon.com/EZBOT and check out the performance templates. I have so many on there, 12 or 13 templates on there for you to check out. Granular effects, hyper effects, performance mixers, effects, ultimate effects, different workflow concepts, really cool stuff. Some people still prefer the older versions of the templates to this one that I'm sharing right now, just because they like some particular workflow stuff that I've implemented there. But it's a lot of fun to check out. It completely transforms your Octatrack into a performance device, which honestly, in my opinion, is the best thing you can use the Octatrack for. I know there's a lot of amazing people out there making music on an Octatrack, like John Makes Beats, for instance, Fantastic, or Mallow Beats, and so many other people that are just stellar Octatrack musicians. But in my opinion, I do believe that the best use case you're going to get for the Octatrack in 2025, considering that there's amazing samplers out there that do a lot of stuff, is using it in this fashion, where you take advantage of live resampling, we take advantage of through machines, we take advantage of neighbor tracks, we take advantage of the crossfades, we take advantage of retrigs and using re-trigging our phases for our LFOs to create dynamic, long crescendo effects. All that is happening on these performance mixer templates, and just using the Octatrack in this fashion. That being said, making music on the Octatrack itself and also using it in this fashion is something you can do, and I do have templates for that process as well. If you just have an Octatrack and also want to do this, you want to visit patreon.com/EZBOT. Cool, that's going to be it for me today. Hope everybody enjoyed this demonstration and kind of the workflow on how to get this done. Remember, function Q, reload your parts. Remember that. Part to change to your effects section. If anything ever seems weird, function Q. Function Q, function Q, reload your parts. Super important. If you're making adjustments, if you don't see this zeroed out, if this looks like this, it's not going to work the way you want it to. Function Q. Send everything back to the way that I set it up when I sent the templates out to you. Okay? You'll be good. You'll have a great time. Just plug your MIDI out in here, plug your drum machine into A and B, your digitone or whatever you've got running into C and D, Syntact, and blast off. It'll be synced. Everything's quantized. You can't screw up. Hit the yes button. It'll record live loops. Scene 16, always your live looper. It's a piece of cake. It's a blast. You're going to have a great time. If you have any questions, you can ask me in Discord, which will be a link in the comments section below of this video. You can also join patreon.com/EZBOT and ask me right there. I get back to people rather quickly on Patreon, so it's a great place to do that. You can also email me if you'd like. That's ezbot.live. If you want private lessons from me, which I give all the time, I do about, I don't know, 12 to 15 lessons a week on these devices: Digatone, Digitech, Syntact, Octatrack, Rhythm, Analog 4, M8 Tracker, some of the Polygon stuff, Modular Synthesis, Bitwig Studio. Any of that kind of stuff, you can hit me up on ezbot.live and check out lessons. I do one-on-ones all the time. It's also a perk on Patreon. There's also a weekly meetup that we do on Patreon called Soundcheck, where we bounce ideas off each other, we share stuff and do technical work. It's where we kind of like figure out whatever's distressing us in our setup and try and optimize our setup for our hardware specifically. So if you're interested in that stuff, that's patreon.com/EZBOT. Hope everybody has a great week and keep your head up. Things are going to be okay, I hope. Let's make some music just in case. Let's just make music. All right? I'll see you all soon. Thanks for hanging out.